Space was quiet, too quiet. Far above the Earth, a small spacecraft moved fast through the dark. It was called Soyuz MS-04. It looked strong from outside, but inside everything felt small and tight. 3 astronauts sat close to each other. They were ready to go home, but danger was still ahead. The commander checked the control panel again. Lights blinked in green and yellow. Every sound inside the capsule felt loud. Breathing was slow and careful. No one was joking now. This was the most dangerous part of the mission. Below them, the Earth waited. The spacecraft had finished its long journey in space. It was time to return. But returning to Earth was never easy. Space does not forgive mistakes. One small error could turn this return into a disaster. The commander spoke calmly, but his voice was serious. He knew millions of people were watching from Earth. Engineers, families, and space experts were all waiting. Mission Control was listening to every word, then something changed. A warning light flashed. At first it was small, just one light, but everyone saw it. The engineer looked at the screen. His face became tense. The system showed a problem with communication. Signals were becoming weak. The commander tried to stay calm. He pressed a button and spoke into the microphone. Mission Control, do you copy? There was silence, only the sound of air moving inside the capsule. He tried again. Mission Control, this is Soyuz MS-04, do you copy? Still nothing. On Earth, engineers leaned forward in their chairs. Screens showed broken lines. The signal was unstable. Voices came and went. Someone said, signal is fading. Inside the capsule, time felt slow. The astronauts looked at each other. They did not panic, but they understood the risk. Without clear communication, landing became more dangerous. The engineer checked the backup system. His hands moved fast but steady. He spoke in a low voice. We may lose signal during entry. The commander nodded. He had trained for this. Still, training was different from reality. This was real. This was happening now. The third astronaut looked out of the small window. Earth was getting closer. Blue and white filled his view. It was beautiful but also frightening. Soon, fire would surround them, back on Earth. Mission Control made a decision. They needed one clear message before the signal was gone. A voice came through the radio, broken but understandable. Soyuz MS-04, follow manual protocol. You are go for entry. The commander replied quickly. Copy that, going manual. This was the desperate call. After this moment, they might be alone. The spacecraft began to turn. Slowly, carefully, it moved into the correct position. This position was very important. If the angle was wrong, the capsule could burn or bounce back into space. Sweat formed inside the helmets. The temperature inside the capsule started to rise. Systems hummed louder now. The commander thought about his family. He did not say it, but he felt it. The engineer thought about training days, long hours, and warnings. The third astronaut closed his eyes for a second and took a deep breath. Then the signal dropped. On Earth, screens went silent. No voice, no data. Mission Control waited. Seconds passed, then minutes. No one spoke. Everyone knew this was normal, but fear still filled the room. This silence always felt too long. Inside the capsule, the astronauts felt the first shake. They were entering Earth's atmosphere. The spacecraft started to heat up. Outside, air turned into fire. The capsule shook harder now. Vibrations moved through their bodies. Gravity pushed them deep into their seats. The commander spoke. Even though no one might hear him, stay focused, follow the steps. The engineer watched the numbers. They were high but still safe for now. The shaking became stronger. The sound was like thunder. The capsule felt like it was falling apart, but it was holding. This was how it was designed. Outside, flames danced around them. Inside, 3 humans trusted their machine and their training. Back on Earth, Mission Control waited for one word. One sound, one sign. But the silence continued. No one knew what was happening above the clouds. Was the capsule still intact? Were the astronauts safe? Would they survive this fire from the sky? The answer would come soon, but for now the world waited and the spacecraft burned its way home. The silence was broken by fire. The Soyuz capsule moved faster now, falling toward Earth like a shooting star. Outside, the air turned into burning flame. The heat was extreme. This was not normal fire. This was fire created by speed, fire without mercy. Inside the capsule, the shaking became violent. The astronauts were pushed hard into their seats. Their bodies felt heavy. Every movement was difficult. Breathing was slow and forced. Gravity was now many times stronger than on Earth. The commander looked at the control panel. Numbers changed fast. Red and yellow lights flashed together. The capsule was doing exactly what it was built to do, but the stress was enormous. Heat shield took the first attack. Outside, temperature rose higher than the surface of molten metal. The shield burned layer by layer, protecting the humans inside. This was planned. Still, no one could see it. They could only trust it. The engineer spoke with effort. His voice sounded deeper because of pressure. Heat levels rising, still within limits. The commander nodded. He did not reply much. Talking wasted energy. Focus was everything now. The third astronaut clenched his fists. His vision narrowed. The edges of his sight turned dark for a moment. He had trained for this feeling. Still, the body always reacted with fear. The capsule shook again, harder this time. A loud bang echoed inside. For half a second, everyone froze. "What was that?" the third astronaut asked. The engineer checked the system fast, his fingers moved with care. "Thermal panel separation," he said. Normal in space missions, normal often sounded dangerous. Outside, pieces of the heat shield burned away and disappeared. Bright sparks flew into the darkness. The capsule glowed orange, then red. It looked like it was on fire, but inside the temperature stayed just low enough to survive. Back on Earth, mission control still waited. The blackout continued. This was expected during reentry, but no one relaxed. Hands stayed close to keyboards. Eyes stayed locked on screens. One engineer whispered, "This part is always the worst." Minutes felt like hours. Inside the capsule, time lost meaning. The shaking turned into a constant force. The astronauts could not lift their heads, their faces pressed back into their helmets. Each breath felt heavy, like breathing underwater. The commander focused on one thing: stay conscious. If anyone passed out, the situation could become deadly. He spoke slowly and clearly. "Check in one by one." The engineer answered first, "I'm okay." The third astronaut paused, then replied, "Still with you." The commander took a deep breath. "Good, stay with me." Suddenly the capsule tilted, not much, just enough to be felt. The numbers on the screen changed direction. This was dangerous. The angle of entry had to be perfect. Too steep and the capsule would burn, too shallow and it could skip off the atmosphere like a stone on water. The engineer reacted fast, angle shifting slightly. The commander moved his hand, slow but strong. Manual control engaged. He adjusted the capsule just a little. The movement felt small, but it was critical. The shaking eased for a second, then it returned. This time the sound was different. A deep roar surrounded them. Air screamed past the capsule at unbelievable speed. Outside, shockwaves formed like invisible walls. The third astronaut thought of Earth, of trees, wind, and normal air. He had never wanted something so simple so badly. Inside the capsule, warning alarms beeped, not loud, not screaming, just enough to be noticed. The engineer checked them quickly. Pressure stable, structure holding, that was all that mattered. Then without warning, the shaking began to slow, not stop, just slow. The fire outside started to fade from bright white to deep orange. The worst heat was passing. They were still in danger, but they had crossed the most violent part. The commander allowed himself one short breath of relief. But he knew better. The mission was not over. Next came the parachute phase, and that came with its own risks. Back on Earth, a signal suddenly flickered on one screen, a weak line, then another. A voice tried to break through the static. Everyone leaned forward, but the signal vanished again. Inside the capsule, the fire finally disappeared. The shaking softened into rough vibrations. Gravity still pressed hard, but it was slowly decreasing. The engineer spoke quietly, almost to himself. If the parachute fails, he did not finish the sentence. No one needed to hear it. Above the clouds, the capsule continued its fall. Below, the ground waited. And somewhere between hope and fear, 3 astronauts prepared for the next moment. The moment that would decide everything. The fire was gone, but the danger stayed. The Soyuz capsule moved lower now, deep inside Earth's sky. The violent shaking had changed into heavy pressure. Gravity still pushed hard on the astronauts. Their bodies felt like they were made of stone. Breathing was not easy. Each breath felt slow and thick. The air was there, but it felt far away. The commander focused on one simple thing: inhale, exhale. He knew this feeling well. Training had warned him about this moment. This was the moment when the body wanted to give up. The engineer tried to lift his hand. It barely moved. His fingers felt numb. Gravity pressed him down like a giant hand. His chest felt tight, but the numbers on the screen showed oxygen was normal. The body was lying to him. The third astronaut felt something worse. His vision began to shrink. The world around him became narrow, like looking through a tunnel. He blinked again and again, fighting the darkness. He whispered, "I'm still here." The commander heard it. That was good. As long as they spoke, they were conscious. As long as they were conscious, they had a chance. "Keep talking," the commander said. "Small words are enough." The capsule groaned as metal cooled and tightened. Small cracking sounds echoed inside. They were not dangerous, but they sounded frightening. Every sound felt louder in the small space. Outside, the sky was blue now. Clouds rushed past the window. The capsule was falling fast, but not freely. Air resistance pulled against it like invisible hands. Inside, the pressure changed again. The engineer felt his heart beating hard, too hard. His body tried to panic, but his mind pushed back. He looked at the checklist taped near his seat. Simple steps, one by one. Step 1, stay awake. Step 2, monitor systems. Step 3, prepare for parachute. The third astronaut forced a slow breath. He thought of standing on Earth. He imagined grass under his feet, normal gravity, normal air. The thought helped him stay calm. Then the capsule shook again. This time it was sharp and sudden. A loud mechanical sound followed. Clunk, all 3 froze. The engineer checked the screen. His eyes moved fast. "Module separation," he said. "Service module is gone." This was planned, but hearing it happen always felt final. Parts of the spacecraft had detached and burned away. Only the small return capsule remained now. Everything else was gone forever. They were truly committed. The commander nodded. "Good, stay focused." Gravity slowly began to ease. It was still heavy, but no longer crushing. The astronauts could move their heads just a little now. That small change felt like freedom. Sweat floated inside the helmet, forming tiny drops. The cooling system worked harder. Air fans hummed softly. The third astronaut laughed once very quietly. It was not happiness. It was relief mixed with fear. "Never gets easy," he said. The commander replied, "It shouldn't." Suddenly, a light turned green. "Parachute system armed." This was the next test. The engineer's voice dropped. "Next event in 10 seconds. 10 seconds felt too short. The capsule continued to fall. Wind screamed outside. Clouds rushed past like white rivers. The ground was still far below, but coming closer fast. 5 seconds. The commander tightened his grip on the armrest. 4, 3, 2. A violent jolt slammed through the capsule. Then a massive pull. The parachute deployed. The force snapped their bodies forward, then back. The capsule slowed sharply. Gravity shifted again, strange and confusing. The third astronaut gasped as air rushed from his lungs. The engineer checked the screen, hands shaking now. "Main parachute open," he said, speed dropping. Outside, a huge white parachute bloomed in the sky. It pulled against the falling capsule, fighting gravity with fabric and air. The capsule began to swing left, right. The movement was rough, but controlled. The commander closed his eyes for 1 second, just one. Then he opened them again. They were still alive, but the mission was not finished. Below them waited the final challenge, the landing, hard, fast, unforgiving. As the capsule descended under the parachute, all 3 astronauts knew one truth: surviving space was only half the journey. Surviving the return would decide everything the parachute held. That single fact changed everything, but danger was still close. The Soyuz capsule now fell slowly under the large white parachute, slowly but not gently. The capsule swung from side to side like a heavy stone hanging from the sky. Each movement pulled at the astronauts' bodies in strange ways. Inside, everything felt upside down. Gravity was weaker now, but it was uneven. The commander felt light for a moment, then heavy again. His stomach turned. This part was always uncomfortable. The body did not understand what was happening. The engineer watched the numbers carefully. Speed was dropping, altitude was decreasing, systems were stable. Still, his jaw stayed tight. One problem at this stage could still be fatal. The third astronaut looked out of the window again. The view had changed. No more fire, no more darkness. Below them was Earth, wide open and real. Brown land, white clouds, long shadows. The ground was no longer an idea. It was coming for them. He spoke softly. "I can see the land." The commander nodded. "Good, keep watching." The parachute creaked above them. The sound was low and constant. Fabric stretched under massive force. Air rushed past. The capsule continued its slow descent. Minutes passed. For the first time since re-entry, time felt normal again, but normal did not mean safe. The engineer pointed at a display. Wind speed higher than expected. Wind was dangerous. Strong wind could drag the capsule across the ground after landing. It could flip it. It could injure the crew. The commander acknowledged it. "We prepare for hard landing." They always prepared for hard landing. The capsule rotated slightly, adjusting its position under the parachute. Small control lines worked automatically, keeping the capsule as stable as possible. Still, the swinging did not stop completely. Inside the capsule, the air smelled different now. Not space. Not metal, Earth. The third astronaut noticed it first. He smiled weakly. "I can smell Earth." The engineer almost laughed but stopped himself. Smiling felt risky. This was not over yet. Altitude dropped fast now. 10 kilometers, 8, 6. The ground details became clearer. Shapes formed, hills, open land, a landing zone chosen long before this day. Rescue teams were already moving below, racing toward the expected landing area. Helicopters waited. Doctors prepared. Everyone watched the sky. Inside the capsule, the commander began the final checklist. "Seats locked." "Locked," the engineer replied. "Body position, ready." They pulled their arms close to their bodies, heads pressed back, feet braced. The capsule would hit the ground hard. Their bodies needed to absorb the shock. 5 kilometers, the parachute cut away. For a brief second, the capsule dropped faster. Then smaller parachutes deployed, stabilizing the fall. The movement changed again. Short, sharp motions replaced the long swings. The third astronaut swallowed hard. His mouth was dry. "I forgot how loud this part is," he said. The capsule rattled, wind howled, metal vibrated. 2 kilometers. The ground rushed closer now. The commander spoke calmly, but his heart beat fast. "Landing engines will fire just before contact." These engines were small but important. They would fire for only a moment, slowing the final impact. Without them, the landing would be brutal. 1 kilometer. The engineer watched the countdown. His eyes did not blink. 500 meters, 400, 300. The world outside filled the window. Earth was no longer below them. It was all around them. 100 meters. "Stand by," the commander said. 50 meters. The capsule dropped. 30, 20, 10. The landing engines fired. A loud bang. A sudden push. Then impact. The capsule slammed into the ground. Dust exploded into the air. The force snapped their bodies forward, then back. Pain shot through shoulders and backs. The sound was violent and final, then silence. The capsule rolled once, then stopped. Nothing moved. Inside, the astronauts stayed still for a moment. They listened. They breathed. The engineer broke the silence. "I'm okay." The third astronaut laughed, breathless. That was rough. The commander closed his eyes and released a long breath. Welcome home. Outside, dust slowly settled. The Soyuz capsule rested on Earth once again, but the mission was not finished. The hatch was still closed. The crew was still inside, and help was still on the way. Silence filled the capsule, not the calm silence of space, but a heavy one, a silence that followed violence. The Soyuz capsule sat still on the ground, slightly tilted, covered in dust and dirt. Outside, the world was quiet. Inside, 3 astronauts listened to their own breathing. The commander did not move at first. He waited. Training taught him this moment was dangerous. After a hard landing, the body could feel fine but hide injuries. He counted slowly in his head. 1, 2, 3, then he spoke. Status check. The engineer answered first. His voice was low but clear. Conscious, some pain in my back. Systems look stable. The third astronaut shifted slightly. His helmet touched the seat. I'm okay. Dizzy? The commander nodded. Good, stay still. The capsule creaked softly as metal cooled. Heat from reentry slowly faded. The air inside felt thick and warm. Fans continued to run, keeping oxygen flowing. Outside, sunlight hit the capsule. Dust floated in the air like smoke. The parachutes lay on the ground far away, stretched and lifeless. They had done their job. Inside, the engineer checked the pressure system. A small screen showed green numbers. No leak. He said, cabin pressure is stable. That was important. A pressure leak could turn survival into panic, but for now the capsule was safe. The third astronaut tried to lift his hand again. This time it moved, slowly, but it moved. His body felt heavy, like it did not belong to him anymore. Gravity felt strange after so long in space. Earth feels strong, he said. The commander allowed a small smile. It always does. Minutes passed. They waited for the signal. On Earth, rescue teams rushed toward the landing site. Helicopters flew low over the land. Dust clouds followed their movement. Antennas searched for the capsule's signal. Then a green light blinked inside the capsule. Communication restored. The commander reached for the microphone. His hand trembled slightly, but his voice stayed calm. Mission Control, this is Soyuz MS-04. A pause, then a voice answered, clear and full of relief. Soyuz MS-04. We read you, confirm crew status. The engineer closed his eyes for a second. The third astronaut let out a long breath. The commander replied, crew is safe, capsule intact, we are on the ground. In Mission Control, applause broke out. Some people smiled, some wiped their eyes. Months of work had come down to this moment. Inside the capsule, the commander added the final words. We have landing. The message traveled across the world in seconds. Inside the capsule, the mood changed. Fear slowly released its grip. Relief came in waves, muscles relaxed, hearts slowed, but they were still inside. The engineer looked around. Temperature rising a little, the commander nodded. Rescue team will arrive soon. Soon was a relative word. Outside, the capsule sat alone in the open land. Wind pushed against it gently. The sun climbed higher. Time moved forward again. Inside, the third astronaut felt tired in a way he had never felt before. Not physical tiredness, something deeper. The weight of the journey pressed on him now that it was over. I just want fresh air, he said quietly. The commander understood. You'll get it. The engineer checked the clock. 10 minutes since landing. 10 minutes felt long in the capsule. Sweat ran down faces. The smell of metal and plastic filled the air. Every sound felt close. Every breath echoed in the helmet. Then a vibration, very light. The commander listened. Do you hear that? The engineer smiled. Helicopters. The sound grew louder. A low chopping noise filled the air. Dust outside lifted again. Shadows moved across the capsule window. Help had arrived. Rescue teams circled the capsule, checking it from all sides. One team member knocked gently on the outside. Inside, the knock sounded like thunder. The third astronaut laughed softly. Best sound I've ever heard. The commander replied, stay seated, follow procedure. Outside, voices shouted, equipment moved, cameras rolled, doctors waited nearby. Inside, the engineer began disconnecting systems slowly, step by step, no rush, safety first. The capsule door was still closed, but not for long. Fresh air was only minutes away. Earth was waiting, and soon. The crew of Soyuz MS-04 would step out of their small metal world and return to the planet they had missed more than they ever expected. The capsule was no longer alone. Outside, boots touched the ground. Voices spoke quickly and clearly. Rescue teams moved around the Soyuz capsule with care. Every step followed strict rules. Even now, danger was possible. Inside, the astronauts listened. The sound of helicopters faded into the distance. Engines shut down one by one. The land became quiet again, but this time it felt safe. The commander checked the final indicator lights. Power was stable. Pressure was normal. The capsule had done its job until the very end. Prepare for hatch opening, he said. The engineer nodded and reached for his checklist. His hand still felt slow, but his mind was sharp. One wrong move could cause injury. They had waited this long. They could wait a little more. The third astronaut swallowed hard. His heart beat faster now than it did during landing. This moment felt different. This moment was emotional. The return was real now. Outside, a rescue team member knocked again, harder this time. Inside the capsule, the sound echoed loudly. The commander answered through the radio. Crew ready. Tools scraped against metal outside. Locks were checked. Pressure between inside and outside was equalized. Every step mattered. Inside. The air felt warmer, the smell of metal mixed with sweat and dust. The third astronaut shifted slightly in his seat, then stopped. His body still felt heavy, like it was learning gravity for the first time. The engineer looked at the commander. Hatches clear. The commander paused for just 1 second, then he nodded. Open. A loud click sounded, then another. The hatch began to move, slowly, very slowly. A thin line of light appeared at the edge of the door. Fresh air rushed in. Earth air, cool, dry, real. The third astronaut closed his eyes as the air touched his face. He took a deep breath. It felt different from the air inside the capsule, lighter, cleaner, alive. The hatch opened wider. Sunlight filled the capsule. Dust floated in the air, glowing softly. The small metal space that had protected them now felt even smaller. A rescue team member appeared at the opening. He smiled. "Welcome back," he said. The commander replied with a calm voice, but his eyes showed emotion. "Good to be home." One by one, the crew was helped out. The engineer went first. Strong hands supported him as he was lifted carefully. His legs did not work properly yet. Gravity felt like too much. Doctors guided him to a chair nearby. The third astronaut followed. As soon as his boots touched the ground, his knees shook. He laughed, surprised. The ground felt harder than he remembered. "I forgot how heavy Earth is," he said. The rescue team smiled. They had heard this before. Finally, the commander emerged. He stood for a moment, supported on both sides. He looked around slowly. The open land stretched far in every direction. The sky was wide and blue. The wind touched his face. He breathed in deeply. This was home. Cameras clicked. Voices spoke around them, but for a brief moment the commander ignored it all. He looked at the capsule behind him. Small, burned, silent. It had carried them across the edge of space and back. Doctors moved in quickly. Heart rate, blood pressure, eyes, balance, everything was checked. The crew followed instructions without complaint. They were tired but cooperative. The third astronaut looked down at his hands. They trembled slightly. "Normal," a doctor said. "Your body is remembering gravity." The engineer sat back in his chair. He felt relief wash over him, not excitement, not joy, just relief. The kind that comes when something heavy is finally set down. Nearby, mission control voices came through a speaker. Congratulations filled the air, names were spoken, applause could be heard even from far away. But the crew stayed quiet. This moment belonged to them. The commander finally spoke softly. "We made it," the engineer nodded. "Yes, we did." The third astronaut looked up at the sky. Somewhere above, space waited, dark, cold, endless. He smiled. "We'll miss it," he said. The commander answered, "And we'll return, but for now, Earth." Rescue teams prepared to move them to medical tents. Stretchers waited. Vehicles stood ready. As they were guided away, the capsule remained behind, resting on the land. Its job was finished. The journey from fire to silence was complete. But the story was not over yet, because what happens after space is sometimes the hardest part of all. The world felt too big. That was the first thought in the commander's mind as they moved him away from the capsule. The sky felt wider than before. The ground felt stronger. Every sound felt sharp and clear. Earth was loud. The astronauts were placed gently onto stretchers. Doctors moved around them with calm speed. Hands checked straps. Voices asked simple questions. "Can you hear me? How do you feel? Any pain?" The commander answered slowly. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Speaking felt different now. His tongue felt heavy. His head felt light. "I'm okay," he said, "just tired." The engineer felt the same. His body was on Earth, but his balance was not. When the stretcher moved, the ground felt like it was shifting under him. His stomach turned. "This part is always strange," a doctor said kindly. The third astronaut stared at the sky as they carried him. Clouds moved slowly above. He watched them like a child seeing them for the first time. "I forgot how fast they move," he whispered. The doctor smiled. "They were always moving, you were just not here." The crew was taken into a medical tent nearby. Inside, the light was soft. The air was cool. Machines beeped quietly. This was a different kind of control room, one for human bodies, not machines. The commander sat up with help. His muscles protested. His legs felt weak, like they belonged to someone else. Gravity pulled him down in ways he had not felt for months. Space had changed him. All of them had changed. Doctors checked their eyes. Pupils reacted slowly at first, then adjusted. Blood pressure rose and fell. Hearts beat strong but uneven. "Normal," the doctors repeated. "Very normal." The engineer tried to sit up on his own. He failed. He laughed quietly. "I flew in space," he said, "but I can't sit up." The doctor helped him gently. "Give it time." Time was important now. In space, time was counted in seconds and procedures. On Earth, time was counted in recovery and patience. The third astronaut drank water slowly. The taste surprised him. It was stronger than he remembered. Everything felt stronger now, light, sound, touch. He closed his eyes. For the first time in months, he felt truly still. Outside the tent, reporters gathered. Cameras waited. Questions formed. But the crew was not ready for that world yet. Inside, the commander thought about the journey, the launch, the weightlessness, the view of Earth from above, and then the fire. He realized something important. Space did not feel dangerous when he was there. Coming back did. The engineer stared at his hands again. They were shaking less now. He flexed his fingers slowly. Movement returned step by step. "I forgot how much effort it takes to be human," he said. The third astronaut nodded. "In space, the body floats. Here, the body works." Doctors began light movement tests. Legs lifted a little, arms moved slowly, pain appeared in places they did not expect, bones had weakened, muscles had softened, space had taken something from them, Earth would give it back, but slowly. A voice came through a speaker inside the tent, Mission Control. "Soyuz MS-04 crew," the voice said, "the world is proud of you." The commander smiled softly, pride felt distant. What he felt now was gratitude. Gratitude for training, for the capsule, for the heat shield, for the parachute, for Earth. The engineer closed his eyes and listened to the familiar voice. It felt comforting, like hearing an old friend. The third astronaut opened his eyes and looked at the tent ceiling. "Do you think people understand how hard it is to come back?" he asked quietly. The commander answered honestly. "No," the engineer added, "and that's okay. Because space missions were not about comfort. They were about pushing limits, about learning what humans could survive and how far they could go." Doctors finished the first round of checks. "You did very well," one said. "Recovery will begin now." Recovery, a new mission, harder in some ways than space itself. As the crew rested, the capsule sat alone in the distance. Burn marks covered its surface, dirt clung to its sides, it looked tired just like them, but it had brought them home, and now slowly, painfully, beautifully they were learning how to live on Earth again. One step at a time. The hardest part was over, but the journey was not finished. The crew of Soyuz MS-04 rested quietly inside the medical tent. Their bodies were tired, weak and heavy, but their minds were slowly becoming clear. Outside, the world moved on. Helicopters lifted off. Rescue teams packed equipment. The landing site began to empty. Life continued. The commander lay back and stared at nothing. His thoughts moved freely now. For the first time, there were no alarms, no checklists, no countdowns, just thoughts. He thought about the moment the signal was lost. He thought about the fire outside the capsule. He thought about the impact with the ground. Each moment could have ended differently, but it did not. The engineer sat nearby, wrapped in a blanket. He felt cold, even though the air was warm. Space had changed how his body felt temperature. Doctors said this would pass. "Funny thing," he said quietly. "In space I felt safe. Coming home I was afraid." The commander nodded. Because space is expected to be dangerous, Earth is not. The third astronaut listened carefully. He had been quiet for a long time. He finally spoke. "When we were burning through the sky," he said, "I thought if this is the end, at least we tried." No one replied right away. That sentence did not need an answer. Later, the crew was moved to a larger medical center. Vehicles carried them slowly across the land. Through the window, the commander watched trees pass by. They looked ordinary, but ordinary had never felt so special. Doctors continued tests. Muscles were checked. Balance was tested. Pain was measured. Recovery plans were explained. Weeks of rest waited ahead. Still, something inside the crew had already healed. They were home. News of the landing spread across the world. Screens showed images of the capsule. Headlines spoke of success. Words like brave and heroes appeared everywhere. But inside the quiet room, the crew did not feel like heroes. They felt human. The engineer spoke again, softer this time. "People see the launch, they see the landing, they don't see the waiting." The commander understood. "They don't see the silence." The third astronaut added, "They don't feel the fire." Space missions were often shown as clean and perfect, but the truth was different. They were filled with waiting, fear, trust, and uncertainty, and still humans kept going. A doctor entered the room and smiled. "You did something important," she said. "Not everyone understands it yet, but they will." The commander asked, "Important how?" She answered simply, "You came back." Those words stayed with him. Coming back was not just about landing safely. It was about bringing knowledge home, about proving systems worked, about showing that humans could survive the edge of space. Soyuz MS-04 was more than a spacecraft. It was a promise that even after fire, silence, and fear, return was possible. Later that night, the third astronaut looked out of a window. The sky was dark. Stars were faint, hidden by Earth's atmosphere. Space felt far away now. He smiled. "It's strange," he said. "Space is quiet, Earth is noisy, but I miss the noise." The engineer laughed softly. "Me too." The commander stood with help and looked at the same sky. Somewhere above, the path they traveled was invisible. No fire, no light, just empty space. Humans had passed through it and returned. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. "This is why we explore, not for danger, not for fame, but to understand where we belong." The mission of Soyuz MS-04 ended not with fire, but with meaning. 3 humans left Earth. They touched the edge of space. They faced silence, heat, and fear, and they came back, not unchanged, not untouched, but wiser. Because every return from space teaches the same lesson: the universe is vast. Human life is fragile, and Earth is home.